this individual's theory, but I'm struggling to get behind it. We've seen the giant trees before, but as far as volcanoes being ground up giant tree stumps, why? It would break down to nothing. It wouldn't be like a pile of sawdust forever, would it? As I've said before, I can't definitively say that it's wrong. I would need way more to go along with this idea. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That just about rounds up today's video. I hope that you enjoyed these clips. If you did, please drop a like on the video and subscribe for future content. I upload it every single day at 8 PM UK time. And if you have not already done so, please join our Discord community, the Awoken family. You can find the link for it in the description below. In the meantime, stay well, stay safe, and stay curious. Until next time.